voltage versus wattage. I've seen so many videos out there that kind of give the explanation of it, but it's not quite right. It's right, but it's not all there. What's better, variable voltage or variable wattage? In my opinion, because I vape from, well, as far as on this, because it can only hit 1.2 ohms or higher, I vape anywhere from 1.2 to 1.8 ohm coils on this thing. That's my preference of vaping. So I prefer voltage. Wattage is very relative. If you guys know Ohm's Law, it's very, very simple. You see these little this little equation where V is voltage, A is amperage, R is resistance, and W is wattage. With this, you could derive all of these. I did it like freaking 3, 4 in the morning when I was half asleep. That's how simple it was. You can calculate everything yourself if you don't want to. It's just basic division and multiplication, so I'm pretty sure most people can do it. If you're too lazy to, there's Ohm's Law calculator. For the most part, it's so freaking simple that you don't need to, and especially if you have it all written down like this. There's 2 ways to calculate wattage, 2 ways to calculate voltage. There's more than 2 ways, but I mean, I kind of used all the variables and I put it to the side, so it's easy for me to calculate. That's how I kind of came to. And let's see here. On a variable voltage, variable wattage mod that goes from 3 to 6 voltage and 5 to 15 wattage at 2.4 ohms, right in the middle, it doesn't matter if you put on variable voltage or variable wattage. It's going to be the same thing. Why? Because at its maximum, 6 volts, if you have a 2.4 ohm coil in here and you put it on 6 freaking volts, it'll give you 15 watts of power. Okay? Now, I'm only going to be talking in maximum power. This is how much maximum draw you could get. Now, anything under 2.4 ohms, anything under 2.4 ohms, if you set it on voltage, you will get more wattage. Okay? So, 6 volts on anything under 2.4 ohms will give you higher than 15 watts. And vice versa. Anything 2.4 ohms and higher on wattage will give you more voltage if it's 2.4 ohms and higher. So basically, you put on 15 watts vaping 3 ohms, you're going to get like around 6.8 volts. Now, ideally, right? Realistically, these are 5 amp max chips. Is it really going to give you 6.8 something volts? No, it's not. It might actually it could. But as far as when you go lower, when you put it on 6 volts on a 1.2 ohm coil, you're pushing like somewhere. You know what? I'm just gonna calculate it myself. Okay, wattage. All it is voltage multiplied by amperage, or voltage squared over resistance. Okay, so let me bust out my calculator. You know, I'm just gonna do it in my head. Okay. So, say you are at computer calculator. Okay, so you have so you have 6 volts, right? You're vaping 6 volts, alright, maximum amount. So voltage squared divided by resistance equals wattage. So 6 squared, okay, and 36 pretty easy. I don't even need a calculator for that. Divided by your resistance, right? And say you had a 1.2 ohm coil in here, you'll get 30 watts. 30 watts of power. Okay? This thing could only go up to 15. So, is it really giving you 30 watts of power? No, it's not. You're sticking around the 6 area, but you'll get like 6.1 or 6.2 volts. Right? And if you put it on wattage and crank it up to 15, you're still you're getting around 16 watts or 17 watts. Look. Okay? Now if you put it on 15 watts, you're stuck at 15 watts. Right? It's not gonna go anywhere. And your voltage is gonna be kind of backwards here. So let's go to voltage. So say you were vaping in wattage and you had a 1.2 ohm coil. Okay? Now you have your resistance at 1.2 ohms. And you had your wattage at 15. you're vaping 4.2 volts. 4.2 volts on its maximum power area. This is why I say that if you're vaping under 2.4 ohms, keep it on voltage. You could have more control over your power. If you're vaping above 2.4 ohms, you put on wattage, you have more control of your power at the end. Now, people are saying when you put it on wattage, you don't have to think about voltage or ohms. It just automatically does everything for you. Yeah, it does. But if you put it on voltage, that's the same way. I don't have to worry about wattage or ohms. It just automatically does it for me. Right? So you can't really say that. Okay. Variable wattage will adjust your voltage for you. Variable voltage will adjust your wattage for you. They all correlate. It's all the electric flow. All is related. Everything is freaking related. And change one, you change everything. Kinda, right? In essence, resistance is pretty much a constant, right? Once you have your atomizer built on here, it's a constant. That resistance, the ohms will never change. But even when you start swapping out the freaking ohms, right? And you have it on variable wattage, yeah, you're changing your voltage left and right, up and down, and all that. But if you had a sweet spot on a 1.2 ohm coil, right, and you're vaping at 4.24 volts, when you put a 2 ohm coil in there, that voltage will change, but it's not gonna freaking vape the same as a 1.2 ohm coil. It will not vape the same. It will not be in your sweet spot. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, what this does, though, what wattage does is you have a kind of safety area where you won't really get the burnt flavor, kinda, you say, because the only way to get more power off wattage mode is to up the ohms, right? And as you raise the ohms, your voltage gets higher, but that's limited to 6 volts. So no matter how freaking 15 ohms could give you, this chip is pretty much maxing out at 6 volts, 6.1 or 6.2. If you put a 3-4 ohm coil. Now, because your resistance is so high, it's going to take longer for that coil to heat up. Supposedly, unless you go nano coil. Again, it also depends on what coil setup you have, right? So you can't say wattage is better because it automatically controls your voltage. So I can say voltage is better because it automatically controls your wattage, right? Wattage is the power, right? I'd rather adjust something to control the power automatically than controlling the power and automatically controlling the voltage automatically. It's the same freaking thing. But what wattage does is it kind of limits you, especially on these China-made APVs, right? For you not to get the burnt flavor, right? 15 watts on a 3 ohm coil is a pretty freaking highest voltage, but it will not deliver. This thing will not deliver that much voltage to that 3 ohm coil. You will never get a burnt flavor off a wattage setting on these kind of China-made devices that you won't do on voltage, right? You could get a freaking crazy burnt flavor on voltage mode by putting it to 6 volts and vaping a 1.8 ohm coil. 1.8 ohm coil. But you switch that to freaking wattage and let's just calculate that. It's pretty easy. Okay. So you put it on 15 watts, and then you vape a 1.8 ohm coil. That's 5.2 volts. 5.2 volts. You can vape that coil at freaking 6 volts, and it'll burn up that coil. You'll taste the burnt flavor. The wattage kind of saves you from that. You'll never really get to that burnt flavor, which I don't like. I prefer to get as much power out of my device under 2.4 ohms. That's why I keep it on voltage. Am I really getting to 30 freaking watts? I'm not. I'm getting close to 15. 16, 17 at most. But at least I'm drawing that little bit of extra power that I need when I vape rebuildable atomizers. And it just gives me more control over what I want to vape. Now, what's a pretty freaking safe voltage? 4.9. 4.9 volts will not give you a burnt flavor. Pretty much in any coil. Yes, because I vaped a 1.2 ohm coil at 4.9 volts and it just tasted perfect. So I can say the same thing. 4.9 voltage is the sweet spot. I don't have to worry about wattage. I can just change out I don't have to care about ohms. Just change out any freaking atomizer, keep it at 4.9 volts, boom, and it'll just automatically adjust my voltage, my wattage. Right? That's basically what you guys are saying by saying that I don't have to worry about voltage or I don't have to worry about ohms if I have it on 15 watts. No, you still do. This is what I'm trying to say. But what adjustable wattage does is that it kind of limits you in how much pull you can have on lower ohms, right? And that's why people say that, hey, I don't know why variable voltage, if I put dual ohm coils, I don't know why it doesn't perform. Well, it's because you're lowering your ohms when you dual coil, right? It has nothing to do with the dual coil. It's usually when you have a dual coil setup, your ohms get a lot lower, and on lower ohms, the voltage is gonna be just thrown off, right? Even at 15 watts, you only need such little voltage, 3.9 voltage or 4 voltage to give you 15 watts of power, that you're not going to get the performance out of those low ohm coils, right? As far as voltage goes, you'll never run into that problem. There'll never be a time when you say, what, I put it on max volts and I'm not getting enough power. It'll never happen throughout the whole 1.2 ohm to whatever this could fire up to, right? Variable wattage, you will have the problem the lower ohms you go. So that's what I'm saying to you guys. So one is not better than the other. They both have their own application. The DNA 30 mods, yes, it's revolutionary. And why is it revolutionary? For those of you that vape between 0.6 to 1.1, something that you can't adjust on this. You can't fire that on this. 0.6 to 1.1, you cannot fire on this. But you could fire it on this, but you can't get 30 watts of power in that range. I vape 0.5. At a 4.2 charge, I'm getting 35 watts-ish. 32 watts. I'm already surpassing the DNA 30 power capacity. But even in my whole power curve, even when it gets down to 3.6 volts, which is when I usually charge my battery, 3.6 volts at about 0.4 ohms. This is, I think, a 0.4 or 0.5 ohm coil. I'm still getting 32.4 watts. So that's what I'm saying, right? I never needed a DNA 30. Never have to worry about it because I'm pushing so much power anyways. I'm pushing the max amount of power I can get. That a DNA 30 at 0.5 or 0.4 ohms, it's not going to give me any more benefit, right? Because I'm pushing max power. So these mechanical mods actually give me more power than those DNA chips. Now, if I'm going to vape between 0.6 to 1.1, I'm not going to get that kind of performance, right? That's when the DNA really shines. The reason why the DNA really shines is because it's able to go under 1 ohm, right? But anything under 0.6 ohms, a mechanical mod will give you more power. And the whole point of getting a regulator mod, yes, the battery is regulated, you get the same vape every time, but is to get that much power in that ohm resistance range. So that's my spew. I am looking for a DNA 30 mod. They're freaking, I was trying to build one, but they're sold out. And I could buy one for 70 bucks, that someone's just reselling it just to make a buck. Which I hate doing. I hate doing that because it drives the market up, and I don't like doing that. So I decided just to buy someone else's mod, let their hard work pay off by me giving me my hard-earned money, and I'll pay for your labor. You know, although I can do it myself, I'll pay for your labor. And I decided doing that, and gosh, it's sold out everywhere. And I kind of have a certain specification of what I want. I don't want a LiPo battery. I don't want built-in batteries, because if that battery cell does end up dying, right, it doesn't hold a charge, man, I can't replace LiPo batteries so easily. I got to resolder if I need a LiPo battery. I don't want to do that, and it's kind of messier. So I want a DNA 30 mod that supports 2 18650 or even one 18650 battery. 2 would be better because then I'll get like 4,000 milliamp hours. But in a parallel connection is what I prefer, so I can still have that 4.2 to 3.6 voltage range, but with a huge capacity. And I found someone that's making that sells those mods. For a month, I've been constantly going and checking to be put on the wait list. The wait list has been full for over a month now. I actually contacted the person directly Hopefully I get a message back and I can get that mod and I can do a review and show it to you guys. All that. Alright, thanks for watching. That's my spew on variable voltage versus variable wattage. What I prefer, variable voltage. Does it really matter? Not really. It does at 1.2 ohms, quite much, but if you guys are smoking those Kanker tanks or EVODs or anything where the standard ohms is 1.8 or 2.4, if you get close to 2.4 ohms, it really doesn't matter if you're using variable voltage or wattage. At 1.8 ohms, yeah, you'll get more power off a voltage, but again, 6 volts at 1.8 ohms could give you a burnt flavor, or as far as 15 watts, it's going to be pushing like 5.1 volts, will not give you a burnt flavor. But why am I going to limit myself when I have the option to go up to 6 volts, right? So I'd rather, anything under 2.4 ohms, I'd rather control it in voltage and just lower my freaking voltage to 5.1, right? That's about 15 watts. So that's why I keep it on voltage. If you smoke higher ohms, like 2.4 and above, like 3 ohm, then variable wattage would be kind of preferred, but I don't. And that's why I keep mine on voltage, while everyone else is kind of switching over to wattage. I'm still a variable voltage kind of guy. This is what it is. Alright, thanks for watching, guys.